Good morning, all. Just wanted to do another short video. Something that just was discussing last night with my partner, and also pertaining to I run Course in Miracles group meetings, and so I had another one last night. And the part that we read, for those of you who are familiar with the Course, is at the end of the Forgiveness of Illusions chapter, and it's the part called End of Illusions. And basically it speaks to how we create special relationships. And the purpose of those special relationships is to basically atone and rectify the past, because from the place of the ego, we have all these perceptions of our story of things that have happened and things that have gone on and things that aren't right and things that are unfair and things that have been taken away from us and all this other stuff. And then how we project that into the present, even though if we're operating from the past, we never can actually be in the present from this perception. But so we bring these things here into our present relationships, and we form special relationships. Special meaning that they're unique, that they have a specific purpose. Because ideally, the Course teaches all relationships have the same purpose, which is communication and the joining and the acknowledgement of one-ment, right? Atonement, really, you can break down to at one-ment. So that's the real purpose of our relationships, is to rejoin in the awareness that we are one and connected, and to operate from that place, right? So, and to feed off one another and build and be creative. So, anyway, so the ego forms special relationships. And the way it does that is it projects onto present situations and present people that you meet, things that you need to have fixed through them. That you're like, okay, people have treated me, and we see this a lot in romantic relationships particularly, but you know, this person's treated me poorly in the past, this way and the other, and with the whole huge spectrum of what that can look like, you know, from abuse to just, you know, emotional, whatever. And then we project that onto the new person that we meet, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, saying, like, basically they need to atone, they need to resolve this issue that you've been experiencing in your past. So you never let yourself really be present because you're spending so much time focus on the fact, like, fix what has happened, fix this hole, this void within me. Like, this is what special relationships are based on, because it's in the very principles of the ego that we believe that we're not whole, and that there is aspects of ourselves that need to be completed, and we try to seek that through outside forces, whether that be a person, and keeping in mind too that we can also form special relationships with objects and accomplishments, education. You know, we can really distract ourselves from our purpose and holy relationships by engaging in all sorts of things that we think are going to fill some sort of void, right? And then it's just something that we really need to be aware of, and to acknowledge that, like, we can free ourselves of this. We don't have to project forward like something already is wrong and then expect the world to, like, prove us otherwise, right? Like, the ego's mantra, like, it wants to be right. Now, like, so there's this question, there's a couple questions you can always ask yourself, and, like, I've been asking myself for years, like, am I in love or fear, right? So love being Holy Spirit and in truth, and higher self, divine, whatever you want to call it. And then fear being that sense of separation, right? The sense of separation, because it's not real, but the sense of separation and all that goes with that. And that's a fear-based place. Another question that can be asked that's very similar is, do I want to be right? The ego likes to be right. It really likes to be right. It believes that it knows everything, because it has the past behind it, right? It's like, oh, like, through my little Rolodex of what I believe to be true and all my beliefs and patterns that I've seen and, say, education I have and all this other stuff, if I go through my Rolodex, I'm right about what's happening right here. You know, these patterns that we think, you know, every this type of person is like that, or every that type of, you know, or, you know, even with our diet, like, as a nutritionist, this is something I really teach when I'm dealing with people with their diets, or their lifestyles, I should say, and things that they consume as healing foods, that they expect every single time they eat a certain food that it's going to make them feel horrible, or, you know, vice versa, or in terms of things that they think is making them happy when really it's quite detrimental to them, right? So, we need to be mindful of what we're projecting forward, that maybe there'll be a time that, you know, like say you think that you hate broccoli, but yet broccoli may be the perfect healing for you in this moment. You need to be willing to not project into the future about what your experience of that's going to be. Right? You need to be open, right? And the same thing applies to any of our relationships with anything, right? And last night I was using even the example of, we need to be mindful of the fact that, like, say we're just going to the grocery store and we're going to be engaging with a cashier. That's a relationship. Yeah, it's temporary. I mean, you may see her or him a couple times because you shop at the same store, but, like, even if you were just meet this person once, momentarily, for 2 minutes, it needs to be engaged with the same tenacity, the same open-heartedness, as any relationship, that even one that you'd be engaging on for the rest of your life, say, or whatever, all of them need to be equally treated, because each one you need to be fully present. That's something that we need to diligently ask for, right? So I was using the example of, say you woke up, you've had a kind of day, you know, you go to the grocery store, and you're kind of holding everybody that you're encountering accountable for, you know, like, I'm having a bad day, so you better cheer me up, or the ego is going to be like, I want to be right, like, the world sucks, right? So it's going to show, like, you're going to experience irritating people, lineups, the cashier is kind of, doesn't really care about their job, you know, or you could choose to, you know, not project that forward, and go and have, and, you know, even in the simplest of things, this is where it starts, is all the simple things, all the little things, right? Like, my last blog yesterday was about my hair, and, like, but it's about looking at the simple things to understand the larger principle, right? Like, something that would seem so innocent, so nothing, and I understand that it would seem like so nothing. Same thing, you go to the grocery store, it seems like nothing, something you do all the time, but be willing to see it in a different light, and that's all it takes, is this willingness to want to see something differently, and to not project onto it and let it be kind of unfolded in front of you, because you never know, like, when you operate from that place, you start meeting the craziest people in the most interesting places. And you can start having beautiful, holy instances with people. So, like, these really beautiful moments that speak for themselves, and they're just awesome, right? So, yeah, something to consider. And then this relates back to what I was talking with my partner about last night, about drama and how people like to get caught up in each other's drama. And I think something that he said was really helpful, and just to make things concise, of, like, why we get involved in other people's stories, you know, like, people gossip or whatever. And it's really interesting because my group of friends, that's not something that we do. We don't, or if we're talking about somebody, it's in regards to, like, okay, like, what's the most helpful thing? Like, is there something that we need to join on to help this person further? But never from a sense of, like, gossiping. And we were just discussing in conversation this concept of gossiping, and, like, it really made me think about how that relates to special relationships. And basically what he said is, like, those who believe in drama, those who be operating from ego and think they're a body and think that there's things to prove and things they've done and blah, 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 to kind of defer that energy away from themselves, they want to engage in conversation talking about others, you know? It requires you to have to be less present. So it's like, brought me full circle to what I had talked about last night at the course meeting about how these special relationships and our projecting into the future, or, like, into the present or the future, like, is hurting us immensely. Like, if we really, like, so say any of us who have gossiped, I mean, I'm sure I'm guilty in the past. It's certainly not something in my reality lately, in quite a few years now. It's something I've never really quite computed, but of course I've engaged in it in moments. But there's always this feeling of, like, this doesn't feel good. Like, why am I creating drama here? But it's like, again, it's another one of those socially normal things. that you just talk about people, right? Celebrities, whatever. And if you look at it, it's like you're deferring your power away from yourself and saying, like, you know, I'm going to give my attention to this. I'm going to make this a reality. I'm going to make this into something when it's really nothing. And, you know, just another way that we can distract ourselves from our own processes, right? My connection with those closest to me has everything to do with being complete, like, what my friend Brittany, like, perfectly described this, having mutually courageous relationships, where each of you are equally courageous and equally accountable to each other and to yourself. Those that are closest to me, those are the relationships that we have, is that this isn't about distraction. It's like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's not like get together, watch movies, and distract ourselves from what's going on in our lives. Although from time to time it is fun to watch a movie. But even then, it's like to engage with it and be present, right? Like, not from a perspective of like, let's just kill some time. I haven't wanted to kill time in a very long time. Been very busy. But anyway, that these relationships that I have closest to me are those that people that want to talk about everything, and there's nothing else that we would want to talk about. There's nothing more than we would want than to be completely present with what's going on with each other and ourselves. So, and those are really fun conversations, to be really honest. What better than to talk truth and to talk what's going on and to receive new interpretations and receive the joy that comes from that? Like, it's amazing. So, instead of deferring our energy away from ourselves and talking about, like, circumstances in the world or gossiping about people, like, why waste our time? You know, when you have time with another one, a loved one, a friend, a partner, like, why spend your time perpetuating more special relationships? And basically, if you look at the essence of what's going on, like, almost operating out of, like, the world owes you something. Like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane that we do this, right? So, no judgment there. Just calling a spade and saying, like, let's not be insane, because here's the beautiful thing, is that we can just choose again. And when we decide to operate from that place of, like, love and connection, instead of projecting and, you know, just wanting to be right about things that we've formulated in our mind and other people have experienced in their patterns and all this other junk, like, why not let the world show itself to you in truth? Just an idea. And like anything else, it's just a choice away. It's something that we have free will to choose. Do we want to choose peace and to see things clearly? Or do we want to choose attack and basically war and illusions? Right? Like, do we want to live in the world of illusions and then bang our head against the wall and ask why my head hurts? Why aren't things happy? Why am I so miserable all the time? You know? Or do we want to offer ourselves over and say, like, you know what? Like, I don't want to be right anymore. I want to be happy. So, I never finished that. Another question you can ask, love or fear. Do I want to be right in the ego? Or do I want to be happy? Because that's what Spirit would give us. Because Spirit is our truth. Spirit is the part of us that knows what's real. What's going on. Right? That is beyond the illusions. And all it takes is that willingness to receive that. And it will always be a voice for peace. And it always will be a voice for something that aligns with you even more than your conscious ego mind could formulate. You know, like, so many of us are like, what should I do with my life? What should I do with my life? Well, how about this? How about we break it down and ask on a moment-to-moment basis what feels most in alignment? You know, and then, you know, moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day, couple days to week, month to month, then maybe you can start making larger decisions. But if you can't even, it's like that, if you can't love yourself now, then how do you expect to love yourself in the future? Who are you to say, like, okay, I'm taking this job and this is what I'm going to want to do for the next 20 years, right? Like, if it's operating out of fear, like, oh, I have to get a job, I have to make money, like, we have to understand, we have to look at even our emotions in terms of sustainability. How sustainable is that thought when it's like, oh, I'm out of fear mind, I need to, like, fix a problem, I need to fill a void. It's like, really? Like, we need to see these things and save ourselves from them. Like, we don't need to operate out of this and sanction our suffering on a daily basis and perpetuate it for each other. It's absolute illusion. And we don't need to participate anymore. Ever again. So, just wanted to share that. Another almost 16-minute video. I appreciate all of you who watch, and we'll just keep these things rolling. Love you so much. Bye.